Well, hello, Metro District family, and welcome to the latest episode of the Collective Leadership Podcast. This is a podcast focused in on collaborating for kingdom renewal and holistic gospel transformation. Today, joining me, we have two guests. One of them is our former district superintendent. That's kind of crazy to say.
I know. When
we were recording the earlier ones, when this was recorded, Kelvin, you were appointed to the job as VP of Church Ministries for the Alliance.
Yep.
But now you're all in, full-fledged running, I'm sure 1,000,000 miles an hour. And
I remember in one of the other recordings saying, I feel like I'm just drinking out of a fire hose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it continues. It continues.
Hopefully.
But it's good to be on here.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And we'll see. We'll secretly get you in some kind of meeting in Metro and be like, hey, I see that you're here. Let's have you jump in on the podcast.
I'd be happy to.
And joining us today, our very special guest is Pastor Jessica Ng of Queens Herald Church. She's a youth pastor there. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
it's great.
All the way from Queens. And obviously, we've gotten to know you over the years.
Yeah.
We've been able to have, I don't know if a bird's eye, we've been able to see you in your ministry elements, various different ways, leading worship, leading teams, doing all sorts of stuff. We're going to dive into all of that. But everyone watching may not know who you are. And so why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction, you, your family, what's on the way?
Yeah. So by now, I will have had my first kid. And this is something my husband and I have been praying for the past 2 years. And so we're really excited.
Oh, that's great.
To meet him and to jump into this next season that all God has in store for us. I was born and raised in Queens, New York, and I have been serving at Queens Herald Church for the past 7 years, full-time in ministry.
It's been 7 years already?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
Wow.
I lose track after a few years. And this is the church that I grew up in, essentially, that I've been here since I was 10 years old. Yeah. And that transition and what that's been like has a lot of ups and downs. And I'm still learning how to navigate through that space and what it means to be from a congregant member and a teen growing up in the youth group to being a leader in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That can be a bit of both a blessing and a challenge.
Yes.
So it's not surprising that you're still navigating that.
Yes. And a big part of being in the Chinese American culture and context is that honor and respect is based on age and seniority. And when I first stepped into this role, it was my early 20s. And so learning how to navigate, am I seen or am I seeing myself too as the girl who grew up in this space, in this church? Or am I really a leader who is called to be in this space to serve and assigned by God?
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring out both the two. We often talk about the dynamic of, a congregant, how that congregant or the other leaders see you, but we don't really delve into, maybe we need to more, how you see you. Even in a context like that. So, I'm glad you mentioned am I seen or am I seeing myself? Because it is a both and. It's not just an either or.
Yeah. Well, I guess tell us a little bit about your journey. You said you were at QHC from the age of 10. Obviously briefly, because we have so much to talk to you about, but give us a bit of your background in coming to faith in Christ. And I in particular love, that call to ministry and how it came about. So we can touch on that. That would be great.
Yeah. Youth group was a very pivotal part of my faith journey into encountering who God is. I didn't realize it then, but when I was 14, that was when I first heard God's voice, and that was my first encounter of what God's peace meant and comfort. I had a lot of questions about who God is, especially God the Father, and it was up until that point all those questions stopped, where I didn't feel a need to ask anymore. And I was able to express my anger to God. But all I received was love. All I received was comfort. And the leaders, the youth leaders, the youth workers who were present at that time really invested in me, really cared for me, not just on my faith journey, but also my well-being too.
That's great.
As a teen and everything that I was going through, navigating. And this was where I really learned how to follow God, and it's not something to do alone, something to do in a community with other believers. And so that has carried with me, and that was part of why I wanted to enter youth ministry. There was an invitation to be serving in the youth ministry, and there was a part of me that was like, I want to work with the junior high students. Now, not many people are going to say, I want to work with junior high students. And so that's when you know it's from God. And so I volunteered and served in the youth ministry during my college years until post-grad. And then an invitation came from the lead pastor at the time who was like, hey, do you want to consider doing this full time? And there was a vacancy as well. And I'm like, are you sure you're asking the right person? I'm like, I just volunteer here. And I love the kids, but I don't have a seminary degree. I'm not a very academically driven person. I was like, I don't want to go to school or do more school. But he was giving the invitation, and that's the level of empowerment and trust. I was like, wow, okay, you believe in me more than I believe in myself. And this is how the Lord probably sees us as well. So through a lot of prayer, through a lot of wrestling, internally, and even with my mom, and just be like, oh, would she approve of this? Going to ministry and all that comes with it. In the end, it was really ultimately, am I willing to trust God and give him my yes, no matter what this would look like? And through that, God also reminded me, he actually invited me back in high school. I had this weird inkling of like, I want to serve in the church context, in ministry, but my understanding of missional living was very different. I thought I had to go in a secular space, to the unreached people spaces. But in this process of praying through, will I give God my yes to go into full-time ministry, not just a position in the church? He really redefined that for me of, hey, ministry is also a calling. It's something that he honors as well. And when I look in my context, there are many people who have grown up in the church, but doesn't necessarily mean they have a personal relationship with God. So they need Jesus as well. And so my heart has been for that audience. And youth ministry has just been the first place of hopefully many to come, where we get to really minister to and help people encounter God.
That's great.
That's amazing. So you've been at this now for 7 years. Well, full time.
Yes.
Doing this 7 years. Obviously on the team, volunteering prior to. What has that been like as you have seen teenagers kind of come in? And at this point, you have seen them through graduation and, like some in college, maybe those some are already out of college and starting their professional careers, whatever that looks like. What have you seen like as the years have kind of rolled by with some of these trends, teenagers, that sort of thing?
I think consistently, no matter what age that they're in, they just want to be seen. They want to be recognized, and how they want to be seen is seen as their potential, not just who they currently are, and see them in the way that God sees them. See that they are deeply loved people who are just broken, who are learning to navigate through life and faith and what that means. And our job is to provide a safe space where they can do that. And so I'm still connected with the ones who graduated from youth group and now they're working, and it's very bittersweet and weird. They're like at the point where they probably could get married any day now. And I'm just honored that I get to still be a part of their lives. And they still call me or text me here and there, especially when they're wrestling with their spiritual walk. Of like, hey, I know I can call Jessica. She's still that person that I feel safe with, that I could trust, who could help me see Jesus in a different way than they currently do. Yeah.
So your pastoring doesn't come to a stop just because they've moved on to the college experience.
Yeah. And that's just life, right? Doing life together and discovering more together. Also recognizing that with teenagers, because of their age, they only can grasp so much at this point in time. But those lessons trusting that God as well will guide them, and the lessons that they learn in youth group will carry with them on what's to come. Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, you really are pouring into their building blocks as people, and it's, I don't know if we all maybe live under the fallacy, but like when I was doing youth ministry, like it was like, there's an urgency, like, yes, this is a time to do ministry. This is a time to meet them. But it's almost like, well, this is their only chance, like this is my only shot. And when it's over, and they can grow no more, you know what I mean? But that's obviously not true. Like, what you just highlighted and pointed out, like, there is opportunities to keep ministering and keep speaking into their lives and who they are. And this is only just a start in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Talk to us about something so a few things. One, I came out to the church. You were kind enough for me to help me out with some research stuff that I was doing for my master's degree. But I really got to see you like at work, engaging like your youth, drawing things out of them. I came back to the office and I was like, yeah, I did this thing for my class, but Jessica's doing an amazing work, at QHC. A lot of what you've been going after has been soul care, with these teens. And so talk to us just about let's start with that first. Like, what are they experiencing? How are you navigating that with them? What's the receptivity to that?
It's taken a few years of cultivating that culture where soul care is normalized. And part of it is building a language to talk about what's happening, what we call at QHC, like the internal world. And they love it. It's become so normal for them. So if I ask them, like, could you identify not just your feelings, but also the lies behind it and what's behind the feeling, they know it just like that.
Wow.
And therefore, I'm like, okay, it's probably time to confess and repent and renounce that, right? They're like, yeah. And they could do that so naturally. Better than probably many of the adults in our congregation as of now. But it's so inspiring to see how they're so aware and growing in self-awareness, but also growing in awareness of where is the Holy Spirit. And how we've been doing this is really equipping them to hear God's voice. Hearing God's voice. And every time we do prayer time, I was like, okay, let's hear God's voice. Let's ask for a word or a picture. I'm like, this is a safe space. And oftentimes in the beginning, they're like, oh, I don't know if this is from God. I'm like, just say it. And then when we come together and put the pieces together, wow, we get the full picture. And they're so blessed and they're so encouraged. And we've done this so often as part of our spiritual discipline as a youth group, but also in their own lives, that this is, again, just a norm. And so when we're talking about soul care and, again, the lies and stuff, they can also see, like, okay, the enemy's doing something here. And I'm aware, let me not be afraid, but let me walk courageously. And let's address this together, and we'll just pray together. And I've been encouraging them, like, you guys should pray with each other. You don't always need me to be there or our leaders, but let's just pray and invite God to speak. And they're great at learning how to bless each other with the truth of who God is and helping each other see how God sees them.
Yeah. I love the fact that you said, and I'm paraphrasing, but creating language. I I think that's so important when you're talking about, soul care, spiritual formation, understanding language that connects rather than just simply forcing language because that's the framework. Knowing your setting, knowing what people are ready for, and how to connect that is so key. So I was just very encouraged to hear you say that.
Yeah. And this language in the beginning is just even teaching them how to talk about their feelings. And that's not something that in our Chinese American context, the previous generation has taught us. And so it's brand new. So at the same time, we get to learn together this brand new thing. And I guess I'm excited. And this is what they're talking about already in their own circles outside of church. So how do we bring that into the church? But also, again, invite God's voice to be part of that too.
So, and where did this start for you? Like, obviously, sixth grader comes in, like it's seeped into the culture, right? Maybe they had little inklings of this beforehand, but like really the kind of jump in, this is what it is. My assumption is it's not like you walked in and said, this is my paradigm for ministry and I'm going to work it, right? Until it makes, like, how did this start? Where did you get this from? How did you process this out?
Part of it was going to seminary, going to ATS and being part of Rob Reamer's class, Soul Care. And a phrase that we often use or hear in our district is you can't go or lead someone where you haven't gone before, right? Or where you are unwilling to go. And so a big part of my life and my faith journey has been engaging in soul care for myself, not just reading the book, but really identifying how do these lies play out in my life. And that's something I'm constantly updating and learning to be aware of on the day-to-day. And it's shaped how I am today, right? Learning, okay, how does things happen within me? Why am I reacting or responding the way that I do? And then what is God inviting me to? Again, hearing God's voice has also been a key tool in the midst of all of it, and just trusting in Him. But yeah, in this process of soul care, I've experienced so much healing, so much freedom, that I'm definitely not the same Jessica today as I was in the beginning of ministry. A lot of the challenges that I experienced in my context really brought out the performative, my worth depending on how well I do or how poorly I do. And part of my context is like, can I make a mistake here? And wrestling with those things. And then there's also people pleasing. A big part of me was like, okay, if respect here is earned by doing well, or my age is a big factor of why I may not be seen as a leader, okay, let me do what I can to please people. And in youth ministry, those are the youth parents who have a lot of opinions, but learning to navigate through that while also standing firm again, remembering what is my calling and who is my calling to. That has carried me through. And so, again, doing the heart work within me has carried and shifted the way that I lead others as well.
That's great.
Wow. So things are happening at the youth level, and lives are being transformed. People are seeing the lies that they're carrying in. Youth has a deep, powerful experience. They go home, they tell mom and dad are really excited about this life-changing transformation that exists. Sometimes it may not be the case.
Yep, that's true.
What does it look like? What has it looked like for you and your teens to like lead up in a way to like mom and dad? Talk to us about what that dynamic is.
Yeah, I think we're still navigating through that. And what we're recognizing of what God's doing at Queens Herald Church is God's kind of using the youth ministry to stir something up within the whole church, which impacts the adults or the parents to see like, hey, they see their students come back, not just from retreats, but even from our weekly gatherings, and they're noticing a change. They're noticing a difference, and they can't deny that God is present. And so it stirs things up within the youth parents of like, hey, what is that? And some youth parents will respond out of fear and control of like, oh, that's too much, or that's charismatic, or that's not what we believe in. But there are so many youth parents who are in awe, who are curious of, hey, if this is a God who is real, who's working within my kids, what about me? What I've strategically done as well is invite some youth parents, actually, who are leaders of our church, to come and serve at a youth retreat. And that's made a difference. And God's used that sometimes to even bring healing for the family as a whole, where the parent and the children get to experience reconciliation in different ways. They get to witness each other, encounter God, and it brings intimacy in their family in a whole new way.
Yeah.
And so we want to keep highlighting and sharing those stories within our church and not just see it, hey, this is just a youth ministry thing, but this is what it means to be part of Queens Herald Church. And so we're still navigating through that. The Holy Spirit's definitely doing something where, again, the whole church is learning how to hear God's voice and what does that look like integrated, not just in ministry, but also in their homes. And we've been seeing that also with the youth workers, our volunteer youth workers. They're the young adults of our church, and how they're experiencing soul care. They're experiencing healing and freedom as well. And their parents are actually part of our church because we're a multi-generational church.
Right.
And so these young adults are having conversations that they've never had with their own parents before. And there's other levels of healing and freedom and reconciliation too happening at different levels in our church. And that's so exciting.
You're not just multi-generational, you're multi-language.
Yes.
And how does that all play into this?
The language part can be tricky. From what I've seen from the youth and the young adults, they're trying. And the parents are trying too. So they meet in the middle. So it could be 3 languages in one sentence, in one conversation.
Wow.
But you could see the heart and the willingness of like, let's sit here and let's talk. Versus in the past, I think people would just give up of what's the point? I'm not going to be heard, or I'm not going to be listened to. But here it's seeing the bigger picture of like, hey, God wants to bring healing. I want to bring healing, and I want certain generational things to not be passed on. Let's pursue that together. And so, yeah, they're having hard conversations, or even could be as simple as asking, how are you? And willing to sit in that and willing to listen, no matter what the language is.
It's good. Because sometimes things like this, when you have more than one language at work, that can be such a blockage. To hear that there's a sense of, okay, yeah, it's not just speaking a different language generationally, but literally speaking different languages. But to hear people are leaning in together is encouraging.
Yeah. The willingness to pursue that has been something new in our church. And those are the small wins we celebrate.
Great.
Obviously, you mainly ministering in a Chinese American context church, right? You're in the city, where a lot of the community is also, you mirror the community, right? When you're with your youth pastor peers and you're talking about the generations, ministry, where do you feel like you are able to give insight to the conversation? Because it's not just a Chinese church having a conversation on the next generation. I mean, Lord willing, all of our churches are like, what do we do? It's a different generation, right? We've been talking about this throughout all these podcasts, as a pre-conversation. What from your vantage point, like, hey, this is what other churches can learn, from us, from Chinese Americans, from what we're doing in our church.
Yeah. I think what's unique about talking about the soul is that it translates no matter what age or what culture that you're from. because it's just about the heart. It's just about how God's created us and where we need, again, his healing, where we need him to redeem things and to reclaim things. And anyone, again, no matter what age, we could connect on that level. We could understand each other's stories and the brokenness that we've experienced, but we could also pursue healing together. And so I'm always blessed when the youth actually come and pray for me, and they hear God's voice. And they're like, hey, can I pray for you, Pastor Jessica? I'm like, yes, please.
Wow.
And I'm always blown away and I'm moved to tears because it's clear and evident of God's power and God's word and God's heart through their prayers. And so I think that we could learn that and practice that in any context. And to, again, see the youth not just as youth or as children, but as equals, as our peers, as people in the kingdom of God and the family of God who can hear God's voice, who could bless us just as much as we bless them.
So you're not just doing the soul care work and helping them be able to process the things of the soul, but in doing that, by making yourself vulnerable, if you can use that phrase, when someone says, hey, can I pray for you? You're also discipling them on what it looks like to minister to others, and giving them, it almost becomes a training ground in a safe way.
Yes.
So that way, if there are things that happen where you go, hey, let's talk about this, we may want to tweak this or correct this, it's safe. You've built that rapport.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I've created coaching spaces for a good handful of them where I could see that their spiritual gifting is in the prophetic. So I'm like, why don't you, while I pray for someone, why don't you come with me? Let's do this together. And then I'll debrief with them on the side after, like, oh, how was that experience like for you? I have one student who is very direct. She sees very clearly from the Lord, but she's also very direct. And sometimes it could be overwhelming for the person receiving it. So creating coaching spaces for the student has been so helpful. It's taught us how to be more compassionate, how to be more gracious, and speak with wisdom and discernment of what is for now and what is for later. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. How are you navigating kingdom justice and mercy with your youth?
I think that's been trickier. Our context is middle class, and a lot of my students, what they're focused on is they're very academically driven. And so they're focused of how do I get to the best colleges? How do I get good SAT scores? How do I build my resume? So seeing kingdom justice and mercy is a little trickier. It's not as clear besides the homelessness that exists in New York City. And so this past summer, a group of 14 of them went to Philadelphia and did a short-term mission trip. And they did a lot of service projects. And what was so key was one group, they got to build an entire kitchen for one family. And they were given power tools and all the drills, all the saws, and like the nail gun, everything.
Wow.
They built cabinets. And it was so awesome to see. I'm like, oh, I think I could trust them to build my house maybe in the future. But yeah, them seeing how, wow, someone trusted me to do something that I don't think I could do as a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, and then impact someone's family. Like this was a need that someone had. And they did they finished the project quicker than what people were expecting.
Wow.
And so they were like, wow, what I do actually matters and actually makes a difference. And so we're hoping that this continues on as we bring it home back to New York City. What could this look like? It could look creatively. It doesn't always have to look like just evangelism necessarily. I think the youth are also looking for spontaneous moments where they could pray for people. And on this trip to Philadelphia, they got to pray for the owner of one of the restaurants that they were eating dinner at.
Wow.
And they were so mind blown by the generosity and hospitality of the owner of the restaurant. But they got to pray for this person. They were so moved. And we're still praying for the owner of this restaurant and see what happens for him. We might not be able to stay in contact, But this stirred up something new, stirred up a fire within the youth that, again, we're hoping that carries into their schools. And in this coming year, we're hoping that they would see their schools, their campuses are places where it could be a mission field, not just, okay, this is just school. This is where I can grow, where I need to build up my resume. But again, who is God highlighting to me in the place that I spend at least 10 hours of my life in every day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think at 14 I was worried about my resume or thinking about my resume. So it's just such a different mind.
I think at 14, I was still asking what a resume was.
Yeah, probably. That's great. So in this coming year, right, you've been obviously digging deep, soul care, new ways of engagement within God's kingdom, right, being a blessing. What are your hopes for when you start a school year? What are the conversations like with your leaders? What are you guys processing, and specifically, what are you processing for this coming year?
Yeah. Again, we spent the past 3 years focusing on the soul, focusing on them, and our motto has been "You matter." But we want to expand that. It's like you and I matter. So how do we continue to have deep conversations, is what we call them, which is really how do we talk about the soul, but in a normalized way, not over spiritualizing things and not too Christianese, but how do we talk about our brokenness with anyone? So we have new kids coming, and the students are starting to invite their friends from school to come to youth group. And these are people who don't know Jesus. But these new people keep wanting to come because they know there's something special here. Because we talk honestly, we talk vulnerably and authentically. And nowadays, youth, they can sniff out if something's fake. They just want what's the real thing. They want the raw and organic stuff. And so those are the type of conversations that we have. And they love it. They really do. And so we're hoping in this coming year, we just do more of that, but intentionally as well.
Yeah.
With people that we don't usually talk to, with whoever's coming through our doors, but again, hopefully in school. But we're also praying that these happen in their homes. These happen with their families or with their siblings, so that the transformative work of God is, again, not just limited to church, but again, in the homes as well, in their friendships with people that they've grown up with people at school as well, who it's their best friend. And how do we invite Jesus to be part of that and to be the voice that's leading them to minister in, again, a very relational, organic way.
It's good.
Which I feel like in some ways is even I mean, obviously you're saying, hey, they're inviting. I don't know how much of this is even not cross-cultural, but like multicultural, right? We talked about obviously the multi-language. Obviously, you can have multicultural because of where people are from, but when you like being in their young adult settings, I'm like, there are non-Asian, like never mind non-Chinese descent people, but there are non-Asian, descent people as a part of this group as well. I mean, one young man that I met was like there. He's like a Muslim background, was a Muslim background, and he's in the young adult, setting. And so, what you're saying about like what's growing, what it's impacting, what people are really grabbing hold of at the church is really starting to reverberate beyond just what I may know as part of my background, as part of my ethnicity. It's going beyond that, which is super exciting, which, part of the reason we wanted to, have you on the podcast. What does it look like then for you to invest with your leaders? What does investment with them look like?
That's been a intentional shift in how I use my time, actually, and the resources. It's investing in the leaders because, again, the same motto of they can't lead where they haven't gone before yet. And so when they sign up for their commitment of serving in the youth ministry, initially they're like, oh, I'm doing it for the kids. I'm doing it because I received and was so blessed in youth group back then. How can I pay it forward? But by the end of the year, the academic year, even halfway, they're like, oh, it's actually not for them. It's actually more for me because I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed that I get to witness and be part of their transformation and their God encounters. But there's something that God's doing within them. And so a lot of our leadership meetings, it's me asking questions of like, hey, what's God doing in you? Or let's say one student that they're ministering to or meeting with is someone a little challenging for them and they're feeling stuck. Then I'll use that as an opportunity to talk about like, hey, what is stirring within you? What is that frustration really about? And that opens the door to talk about the soul stuff. And if we're going to teach about unforgiveness or reconciliation, topics like that, or anxiety, it's like, okay, let's talk about what does that look like for you first, and speak from a place of experience, again, honesty and vulnerability, and what is God inviting to. And so, yeah, throughout these past few years of the leaders that we've had, when investing and talking about their soul, it's impacted, again, their relationship with their own parents. It's impacted their marriages even, that the way that they resolve conflict in their marriage is so different now. It's more with a listening ear. It's more with more understanding because we're like, okay, it's not just a reaction, but there's something behind it. And they've grown in self-awareness. It's even impacting the young adults in our church, all the friendships there, because a small group of us, like 4 of us, are able to talk about the soul and have deeper conversations. Naturally, that language, it's just translating. I was like, wait, what about your soul? And we talk about that in our small groups, our young adult small groups and fellowship, that even other people are getting curious of like, hey, I've seen a change. I've seen a spark and a joy happening within you. What is that? How did that get there? And others are looking for that too for themselves. And so we're just excited that something's happening and something's bubbling. And this is how we've approached youth ministry. The way that I pick and invite new leaders to be part of it is really seeing, hey, God's doing something in this person. Do you want more? As if you want more, come. Come and serve in youth ministry. Because again, you'll be blessed by the kids and all of that, but really God's going to come and bless you and do something within you.
So obviously, the leaders are older than the students. And while they may not be as far removed generationally, there is a generational difference. How do you navigate that when someone, you've invited someone, they come to be a part of it, and now you're asking questions about the soul and things like that? At first, that's got to be a bit like, what is this? So how do you navigate that?
That's a good question. I think part of it, we still connect on the Chinese American experience. So even with the different generational gap of what the youth experience now versus what, let's say, someone closer to my age experience, our parents are still similar in the way that they raised us. Where there's honor and shame, where, again, we're focused on performance as our worth. And so we're still relating with the students in that way and even with each other. Because at the core, the brokenness that we experience and the generational things are very close, very similar.
So it's about finding a commonality and working from there. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious with something you just said. There's the honor shame aspect happening between the teens, the students, and their parents. Does that bleed into youth ministry and how the teens interact with you all as leaders and vice versa? Like, what does that look like?
Funny enough, it doesn't translate to us.
Okay.
Because they don't see us as their parents.
Okay.
And so, if anything, they tend to like us more than their own parents. But that's also because we recognize how shame plays out. We recognize how shame plays out in our own lives. And so we don't want to carry that in, though sometimes it does leak. Because again, we're still broken too.
Sure.
And so, yeah, the youth love us in some sense, and sometimes they trust me more than their own parents. But I want to bridge that gap between the parents and their students. Like, your parents are not your enemies. They are just as broken. They just don't have the language or have been equipped in the way that you have, is what I see to the youth. And so it's grown, they've grown more compassionate towards their parents. There's still frustrations of like, oh, my parents just did this, and my parents are the ones who said this lie or this curse that I've believed in about myself. But I try to navigate and tell the youth, like, hey, it's okay. You know Jesus, and this could stop here with you. It doesn't have to carry on. I know the pain is there. The hurt is still there. But we could cut this off now. And Jesus will heal you from this. And it will happen. You'll need to keep practicing this over time until it doesn't weigh as heavy anymore. And so that's the encouragement that I give to the students. With the parents, trying to build more conversation with them. For parents, this is all still new. Because again, there's a generational difference, a cultural difference, a language difference. But they're learning and seeing like, hey, my child is hurting, or there's something happening. Yeah, and we're still learning how to navigate through that. For some parents, again, because God is doing something within them, it's bringing healing and bringing deeper understanding, compassion for one another. Not seeing their kids just as, oh, these are my kids, but seeing them as people and seeing them, hey, we are all part of the family of God. How do we pursue God together? And be open, like, hey, you don't have to do it my way. I think that's the other big thing. Being willing and open, like, we don't have to do the same things or spiritual disciplines exactly the same way in how we follow God.
So here's a question that's running through my mind as I'm listening to this. How do you navigate this and still not, for lack of a better way of saying it, paint the parents in a bad light?
Yeah.
But keep the door open for the conversation.
Yeah, that's been a really big challenge. Because we're not being like, oh, it's against you or against me. And yeah, different challenging scenarios have come up where parents will come and we have hard conversations. And I will keep pointing it back to like, hey, wait, what are you feeling right now? What's triggering you? You're bringing up these concerns and they're totally valid, but what's stirring within you? Not just you as a parent, but you as a person. And so that's my way of navigating. Let's go back to the soul stuff. Let's go back to like, what's happening and what does God want to say to this? And then it just becomes me ministering to the parents. And they walk away blessed. I don't necessarily answer the question the way that they want to or their concerns. But I just wanted to model for them, like, this is how I lead the youth as well. Or even our youth leaders is no different. And let's see where it goes from there. And the core is, let's build a relationship here. That I want to partner with you. And what you're doing in your home, would you also partner with me? And we'll get through this together. Because a lot of when the parents bring concerns, recognize again, it's out of fear. And you can see in their eyes like, I don't know what I'm doing. Or I need help. Would you help me? And so, yeah, just modeling for them and building the relationship. We're in this together. We're a team. Has brought a lot of peace, has brought partnerships, and just praying for more of those opportunities to come.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Some of you watching online, you know, may think to yourselves like, come on, this is like all way too good to be true. There's so many things about this that like are so intriguing to me. But I think seeing you just use the word modeling, right? And it really is true. Like when I was, you know, present, there were numerous things that were happening at one time, all converging. And internally, I'm like, how is this even going to play out? So here's what was happening. You guys were just coming fresh off of a retreat. There was spiritual breakthrough that happened to teenagers on that retreat. That, I think it was a Friday night when I showed up, when you guys have.
Yeah.
That Friday night, there was another church that was having some kind of worship ministry soaking thing going on. And there were youth that I guess caught wind of this and basically asked permission to like go. You didn't just bless them to go. You sent leaders with them to say like, go engage. This weekend was a huge moment for you in your spiritual journey. It could be easy to say like, no, we got to keep going. What we just had happen last weekend, like we need to capitalize on this. Don't go in. You didn't do that. You released like what I guess what I saw happen so clearly was you led from such a non-anxious place where it could have been that I'm going to hold on, I'm going to grapple, I'm going to, we want to build our thing here. You didn't. You released it, you blessed them. A whole bunch of other teens stayed. There wasn't even the pressure of like, well, Omar's here and a bunch of you got to talk to Omar, It just, you allowed the Spirit to lead you. And even still that night, how you modeled conversations. It wasn't you driven. You facilitated the conversation, but it wasn't you driven. Teenagers were breaking off into small groups, really processing through what it was you were talking about and trying to bring across to them. And they went there. They were vulnerable with each other. They were open with how they were feeling. They were open with what they were thinking about God and all that sort of thing. So it's really powerful. Like, this isn't just like, come on, really? This is like happening in your church. I got a glimpse of this, but to be in the room when all of this was going on and to really just see you lead graciously, peacefully, with a ton of humility, was really powerful. And I think that does speak to the work that you've done within your own soul as a leader, right? What you've been able to pour out to your other leaders as well, even in my own conversations with them. And of course, how a lot of this, your teenagers were bringing to the forefront. So if you can give one encouragement to our Metro leaders, like, obviously you're going to say, do soul care, but like, what would be that charge like for them when it comes to the youth?
Yeah, just going back to seeing the youth the way that God sees them, seeing each other the way that God sees us. I think that's the most empowering. That's how we can embrace the truth of who we are and who God is, because we all need that. We all need that. We could get so caught up in the busyness. We could get so caught up in whatever our autopilot or default is that we forget where God is in the midst of even small things of driving to work or whatever it may be. So continuing to see each other the way that God sees us, which is as deeply loved children of God. We forget that so often. And therefore, that's why we operate in whatever that we just grew up knowing or were taught. So seeing the youth the way that God sees them and modeling it and speaking to them in that life-giving way, the way that God would speak to them. No shame, just compassion. And it just starts with a listening ear of like, hey, would you tell me more? Just tell me more. I am present and I am here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jessica, for joining us. Kelvin, thank you so much for being here as well, brother.
Good to be here with you. So grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah. This was great. This was rich. And just echoing like just that deep work. If nothing else, as we kind of step away, the thing that just struck me as well now is, for so many of us, we would love to slow down enough to be able to do a lot of the things that you're telling us to do. The reality is you're doing them, right? Like, you're slowing down enough to pay attention, to have the conversations, to have people say, hey, come alongside with me. This is not a small youth group.
No.
There's a lot of kids, right? Like, and you're doing this not just with them, but also your leaders and empowering a whole bunch of people. By the time that this episode drops, baby number 1 is going to be here. And, may God give you grace as you step away, right? And, go be mom and, sorting through all of that. But it really does seem like you are leaving behind some really good leaders that are going to be able to pick up the mantle and keep it moving forward.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
God bless you. Metro family, we hope this has been a blessing to you. And as always, we are here to support and help make connections for you in any way that we can. So have an amazing day and keep collaborating for kingdom renewal and holistic gospel transformation. God bless you.